There's a lot of hooligans out on the internet telling you how to fool a lie detector, and it's not that easy to do. You can take narcotics or tranquilizers, that helps, to flatten your emotions out, or you can answer every question wrong, which if you don't allow somebody to get a baseline, whether it's in human lie detection or physical, mechanical lie detection, if you don't allow someone to get a baseline, it's very difficult to detect deception.
Other than James, I look around the room, and there's really only one person here that deals probably consciously with lying every day, and that would be Ross. Because when you go into a deposition, for example, aren't you looking for people who are lying to you on the other side of the table?
They always lie. I tell people when we go into a deposition with a client, if people raise their hand and say, I swear to tell the truth, I said, that means nothing. I'm with you. I don't know that I've ever been to a deposition that somebody had lied with the person. I just tell my clients it's going to happen. And I had one client that was really mad one time after the deposition at the other party. It's really funny because he said, damn, I expected him to lie, but not like that.
To add to that, almost everybody in sales, one of the things we teach is when you talk with a prospect, we almost always lie to you.
Every business transaction, there is a 100% probability of deception. Whether it's in selling a business, buying a business, or selling products. Anytime you're in business negotiation, there's a 100% probability that there will be deception. It may be heavy type deception, or it may just be, inconsequential deception, but there will always be deception involved in a business transaction. And part of it is that, we're trying to persuade and influence, and if you don't really know persuasion and influence, about the only way that you've got to try to do that is to lie to people. So what I teach people is not only, we always know that people lie. I mean, that's an established fact. It's not knowing if someone lied. The whole goal is to find out why they lied and how to get to the truth. So if I'm talking to a client and I'm selling I used to sell forklifts, or manage a forklift sales team, and if we were going into a company and you have someone who's buying a fleet of 100 trucks that cost $35,000 a piece, $350,000, and you say, what's your budget for this project? Don't have one. Well, that's a lie. I mean, you don't even have to be a deception expert to know that that's a lie, because you don't buy $350,000 worth of equipment without a budget. But it's not that lie that I'm looking for. It's don't have one. And I see a fear expression on their face flash across their face, or a disgust expression that flash across their face. Does everybody know what a micro expression is? Have anybody ever heard of that? Anybody ever seen the show Lie to Me? Okay, Dr. Paul Ekman, who is the godfather of microexpression. A microexpression will last anywhere from 1/5 to 1/25 of a second in duration. They flash across the face. They are true emotion or a true leak of real emotion, how a person actually feels. So if someone shakes your hand and their nose crinkles when they say it's good to meet you, most likely they're disgusted by you or something about you. It's a disgust expression. And if you watch people, it takes practice to really pick them up, but microexpression is a very accurate way to gauge people's real emotion, and it's one of the most fascinating sciences that I've studied. But like I say, we've bullet pointed this stuff, and what I wanted to do today is kind of get a little bit interactive and real life stuff. What deception detection looks like in real life, how you can see it, how you can use it. Because when I talk about when I introduce myself as a body language and deception expert, it's kind of interesting. When I first became a hypnotherapist, people would say, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a hypnotherapist." And they go, "Oh, don't look him in the eye." and of course, hypnotherapy has nothing to do with your eyes, but that's the misconception. And then when I tell people I'm a body language and deception expert, one of the first things they'll do is, "Oh, really?" And they'll like triple cross themselves. They're like, "Yeah." So it gets pretty interesting when you tell people that, but really what it's all about is interpersonal communication and making that successful. So what I wanted to do is go through some of the examples of what real life deception looks like and what real life credibility looks like. because what we're interested in is creating credibility for ourselves, for our clients. What we're all about, if we're really involved in sales or serious about business, is not about our business, but we're about the business of the people with whom we deal. Our goal is to make them successful. The more successful we make them, the more successful we become ourselves. One of the reasons why I never could figure out why CEOs begrudge salespeople making big money. And I've argued with presidents and CEOs about underpaid salespeople, and I never could understand why they couldn't do the math. You know, you can read a balance sheet, but you can't do the math to say if I've got 10 salespeople and they make 40% and I make 60% and they're making $500,000 a year, I'm in tall cotton. But they get upset because the salesperson is making too much money. So let's talk about some of the things. One of the first ways that we show deception. We'll jump a little bit here. I need a partner. Habib? Habib and I are going to meet each other, and the first point of contact that you have with a person generally is the handshake. All right, now, I wanted him up here before I did this because I want you to watch, and we'll see if his body reacts the way I think that it will. How you doing, Habib?
I'm doing good, thank
You like that handshake?
No. That was official.
That was the worst handshake that you can possibly do. The handshake, because I just did that, so he only got my fingers. And when part of a handshake is a primitive gesture, and what you want is you want the palms to touch. Because when the palms touch, the reptile brain says, no weapons there. He's safe. He can also gauge my temperature. He can gauge a lot of things about me. So that dead fish handshake is one of the worst things that you can do if you want to create a positive image of yourself. And we don't have any women here, but I would say the same thing to women. You know, used to it was the dainty handshake. Anymore, if a woman wants to compete in this world, they need to have a strong, firm handshake, just like their counterparts. But now, when you meet someone, there are 3 different types of handshakes that we perform. There's the regular handshake, a vertical, hands up, firm handshake. Okay, nice, solid handshake. Now, if I really want to create rapport with Habib, what I will do is when I shake hands with him, I'll turn my palm up, or I'll offer my hand palm up, because now I have given him the upper hand. He's in control. Now, what I can do with that is also I can pull that in. Okay, when I pull his hand in towards my core and my hand is up, he is now in control. He is close to the most vulnerable part of my body, and he's in charge.
Here's your chance.
And there's your chance to punch me right in the solar plexus and hurt me. But now, if one of the places where you'll see deception is somebody who wants to be an authoritarian, wants to be in control, and they'll come up to Habib, who's got a lot of superiority or a lot of experience over me, and they'll do that. Now, how do you feel about that handshake?
Yeah,
it doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I've got the upper hand on you. And if I push that in, it's even more uncomfortable.
Oh, I see.
You don't
You're
like that.
invading my space.
I'm invading your space.
Right.
And I'm getting close to a sensitive area. So when you do that handshake, that direction of your palm, vitally important. And as a person who's wanting to build rapport with someone, now there are times when you want the upper hand. There are times when you need the upper hand. I'm sure that you've been in situations where you want to have that power over somebody. You want to take that. If you watch politicians are comical with this stuff because they always want the upper hand. And now what happens if I shake hands with Habib and he gets me with the upper hand? Now what I do? And he's not letting me roll that hand back over. I can't turn it back over because he won't let me because he wants the upper hand. Well, if you watch politicians, if they get caught in this, they'll do this. They do this. It's like a dance. And then he'll grab me by the arm, and then I'll move up to his shoulder. And we're doing all this crazy stuff with a handshake because we want the dominant position. It's just the point where you're almost hugging, trying to get that position. So when you really want rapport building, that's the first step in making a positive impression is that handshake. Now, how long does it take to make a first impression? How long does it take for a person to make their first impression of you, whether they're going to trust you or they're going to like you? About a 50th of a second. So, I mean, it's done that quickly, subconsciously. Now, you may not be cognitively aware of it, but your amygdala triggers, and you'll make the decision in less than a second, about a 50th of a second sometimes. And that's your primary trust whether you're going to trust or like that person. They did a study, thank you, Habib. They did a study with some university students, and they took pictures from past elections that these students would have no idea who the politicians were, House races, Senate races, state legislators. And they took two pictures side by side of the winner and the loser of the race. And they gave them like 5 seconds each with each set of pictures. And then they picked who they thought out of the two won. They were 70% accurate, just from a snapshot. So there's a lot of nonverbal stuff that goes on that we convey, and you can convey deception very, very quickly and a lack of trust. Now, Mark Bowden, who is also a body language guy, who spent a lot more years than I have doing this, he has a book called The Truth Plane, and he talks about the way that we gesture with our hands. And now, if I start gesturing with my hands, and I keep my hands down here to the side, or I put them, in my pocket, and keep them down, you'll notice that energy level goes down, and you probably don't have a very high opinion of a person when they're talking like that, and they keep their hands down, even if their palms are out. It's just a low energy spot. Now, if I want to build credibility and appear honest, confident, trustworthy, I'll put my hands even with my core, with my basically at belly button height. And you keep your palms open, the gestures open. This is what Mark calls the truth plane. This is where people perceive you to be honest and competent. Now, if I want to bring the level up and I want you to get excited, then I'll bring my hands up to this level. And you'll notice that when you can't hardly move your hands up without becoming more excited, your heart rate goes up, your breath rate goes up, and you become much more animated, much more excited. So will the people that you're talking to. The importance to that is sometimes we really want to get people engaged. Sometimes we want to be credible. Sometimes we want to be, settled down. So a lot of times we'll get these two mixed up, or these three mixed up, and we'll think that we're being professional because we got our hands down and, we're standing here nice and staunchly. And really what we're doing is conveying a low energy, low credibility posture. Yes, sir.
Sometimes a speaker will stand, but he will cross his arms, which in some cases signals cutting yourself off from the audience. Is that an acceptable or an unacceptable?
To me, I would discourage it. There was a story that I read about a female executive, and she struggled. She could not move beyond a certain threshold, and she had a really hard time with the other executives getting credibility with them. And she talked to a body language expert, and the person asked her about, the meetings and stuff, and he watched. Well, she sat in the meeting like this. And he asked her, he says, "Why are you sitting like that?" She said, "Well, I'm cold." She said, "They always keep it so cold in the conference room." And he said, "Well, get a sweater." So she started wearing a sweater, and she opened her body language up, and everything changed for her. When you're sitting and you're crossed, you may not be negative. It may just be a comfortable way to sit or stand, but you also diminish your ability to learn. Your ability to take in information and retain it drops by about 40% when you close your body language up.
Is it bad to put your hand in your pocket, leave one hand open when you're talking to somebody? Does that convey a negative or a...
Are you getting me money?
Huh?
Are you getting me money out of your pocket?
No.
Then it's probably not a good idea.
Okay.
No, it depends on the social situation. I mean, sometimes people are comfortable putting their hands in their pockets, but now also it depends on the context, because it's one of the things that I was going to talk about in today is one of the things that displays deception is if I'm talking to you and we're talking about products or we're talking about whatever it is, and you ask me a question and I do this after I answer, it's a bad sign, because I've just hidden my hands. That basically means I'm concealing something. I'm holding back. You don't want to ever present with your hands behind your back or with your hands in your pockets, because it conveys a lack of confidence. And you can tell just by watching me speak with my hands behind my back, you go into fight because you don't know what I got behind my back. I could have a knife back there. I could have a gun back there. I could have a lot of things back there, and you don't know what it is. Also, when you're in a meeting with someone at a table, now there's a lot of you that are sitting with your hands below the table. It's comfortable. If you're presenting and you're in a business meeting, always keep your hands on the table. Because if you drop your hands down into your lap, it causes the person to, you lose trust with that person because now their amygdala says, why has he got his hands under the table? What's he doing down there? Is he getting a weapon out? You know, and so I mean, this is all, I think they said last time was caveman stuff. It is. It's very primitive thought, but it is the way that your brain works.
Is there one gesture that Mac does when we're talking that I can be 100% sure that he's lying? Is there one gesture? No.
No, there really isn't. That's one of the misconceptions about body language and deception detection is that there are magic bullets. The only way that you can be 100% sure that a person is lying is if you can catch them lying and see what they do when they lie. And one of the things that my methodology teaches is not just baselining and seeing a person's normal behavior, but actually coaching them to lie, coaxing them into a lie, so I can see what they look like when they lie. If I ask you, have you ever been tempted to steal anything?